It's not just a win for, the customer externally.
Right.
It suggests that internally at VPC,
Right.
they're getting things more streamlined as well. And often that translates into better customer support.
Right.
Faster turnaround times for you.
So it's more than just convenience. It's actually about reclaiming lost time.
Exactly.
Lost productivity. Now, they also use this word transparency
Yeah.
as a key benefit of this unified interface.
Yeah.
When you hear that word,
Yeah.
what pops into your head? Is it just the single sign-on, or is there more to that?
It's definitely more than that.
Okay.
It's really about having a more cohesive and seamless experience
Okay.
as you move through the whole process.
Right?
From exploring product options to requesting a quote.
Right.
You're not jumping between systems that feel completely different.
Right, that look different.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that can cause a lot of confusion, a lot of delays.
For sure.
So this suggests a much more integrated flow of information
Right.
and tools.
Okay.
So you're not getting those jarring shifts
Okay.
that can really break your concentration.
Yeah, makes sense. A smoother user journey, that's got to make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Especially when time is of the essence.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're in this unified system.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that really stand out? What are some of the features that are designed to make your day-to-day easier?
Right.
Because they talk about this enhanced user experience.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, there are a few things. One of the things that jumps out is what they call advanced search capabilities.
Okay.
They describe it as Elasticsearch with hinting.
Okay.
So imagine you need a very specific type of connector.
Right.
Maybe something, unusual for a particular application.
Yeah.
Instead of like paging through catalog.
Machine through.
Yeah,
We have
exactly.
endless pages.
This feature, as you type, it will actually suggest options to you.
Okay.
So it can potentially lead you to the right product much faster.
Much more efficient.
Much more efficiently, yeah. It's about making that whole product discovery process less of a headache.
Right, because you're dealing with thousands of potential components.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that sounds like a pretty significant time saver.
Huge time saver.
What else is there?
Okay, another key element
Yeah.
is the interactive product navigation.
Okay.
And they have this thing called the hierarchical product tree.
Right.
So think of it kind of like a file system.
Okay.
That's well organized.
Okay.
So instead of just this long list of products,
Right.
you can navigate through different categories and subcategories
Right.
in a really structured way.
Okay.
So this is super helpful
Yeah.
if you have a general idea of what you need.
Right.
Like you need a certain type of cable assembly,
Yeah.
but you're not exactly sure
Right.
the specs,
The part number.
the part number, all of that.
Yeah.
It kind of guides you through
Right.
the options in a much more intuitive way.
Okay, so it's about understanding all the different options that are available.
Exactly.
Not just finding the one specific thing you might be looking for.
Right, yeah.
Now, beyond just finding the information, what about taking action?
Right.
They talk about actionable features.
Right.
What does that mean? What kind of actions?
So let's say you've found a product
Yeah.
or a solution that looks promising. The platform lets you take immediate steps.
Okay.
You can add things to a list to review later. You can directly add it to a, quote, request,
Right.
or even share that information with other people on your team.
Right.
Like all in one click.
Okay.
So this is all about making it easier for teams to work together.
Right.
On these interconnect requirements.
Yeah.
It streamlines communication, helps with decision making,
It's more collaborative.
much more collaborative, yeah.
Now, let's talk about getting a quote.
Right.
A request for, quote, an RFQ.
Yeah.
Because that can often be a real bottleneck.
Oh, yeah.
A point of delay.
For sure.
So how does VPC Atta try to make that part of the process smoother?
So for people who are already logged into the system
Okay.
with their single sign-on,
Right.
it looks like the RFQ process is pretty direct.
Okay.
They can submit their requests right through the My VPC quote card system.
Right.
So this integration probably automatically fills in some of the necessary details.
Right, so you're not retyping everything.
Exactly. Which saves you a lot of time and effort.
That's going to be a huge efficiency boost.
Yeah, for sure.
But what about someone who's brand new?
Right.
Maybe they're just, browsing, exploring their options.
Yeah.
They haven't created an account yet.
Right.
Can they still get a quote easily?
Yes. They've actually thought about that.
Okay, good.
For people who are not logged in, they have a simple form
Okay.
to collect the basic information
Right.
that they need
Yeah.
to start a quote request.
Okay.
So even if you're just at the beginning,
Yeah.
kind of checking things out,
Right.
you can easily get things going.
Right,
You don't have to
right.
create a full account right away.
Okay, so it's really like lowering the barrier
Exactly.
for those initial inquiries.
Exactly.
Well, that all covers the kind of standard
Yeah.
off-the-shelf products.
Right.
But what happens when you need something really, really specific for a very particular test setup?
Yeah.
They mention powerful tools for customization.
Yes.
What are we talking about here? What kind of tools?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Especially if you deal with a lot of specialized custom testing requirements.
Right.
They have this cable selector,
Right.
often called the CSS.
Okay.
And it's specifically for building those really precise cable configurations.
Okay.
So if you know exactly what kind of wire you need, the length, the connectors on each end, all those parameters,
Yeah.
this tool sounds like it gives you that control.
So it's almost like a virtual design tool
It is, yeah.
just for cables.
Yep.
What other customization stuff do they have?
Well, there's also a patch cord designer and interconnect builder.
Okay.
And this seems to be geared towards creating more complex solutions.
Okay.
It might be, more than just a single cable.
Right, right.
Maybe multiple components. And it sounds like it gives you the flexibility to design exactly what you need
Yeah.
for your specific testing environment.
All right.
You're not limited to just pre-configured options.
Right. So a lot more flexibility.
A lot more flexibility, yeah.
And control.
And that's important because it's not just about convenience.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about making sure that the interconnect solution you're using
Right.
is perfectly matched
Right.
to your testing needs.
Yeah. You don't want any signal degradation or
Yes.
interference.
Exactly.
That could mess up your results.
Right.
All right. Now, moving beyond the design tools, the platform also mentions data-driven insights.
Yeah.
What kind of data are we talking about here?
Okay, so they're saying that the platform supports over 1,000
Wow.
different interconnect solutions.
Okay.
And that it provides what they call builder data with pinout files.
All right.
And this is really valuable for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
I mean, first of all,
Yeah.
having over 1,000 solutions just shows you the range of possibilities.
Right.
And then having access to that builder data, especially those pinout files, can really streamline your integration process.
Okay.
And even help with troubleshooting.
Right.
Think of pinout files like detailed wiring diagrams for these interconnect solutions.
Right.
Having those means you know exactly which pin on one connector corresponds to which pin on the other,
Right.
which is crucial
Absolutely.
for proper integration.
Yeah, you don't want to be making mistakes there.
No, absolutely not.
Costly mistakes.
Yeah.
Let's get a little more specific.
Sure.
They actually give a product example.
Right.
Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So they have this cable assembly receiver, tri-paddle 72, 200 pin male LFH, M3 jack screws.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Right. It's a very specific description.
Okay.
And the part number is 5401050400505.
Okay.
And what's important here is the level of detail they're giving you.
Okay.
They're telling you the type of assembly it is, the connector type, which is tri-paddle,
Right.
which is a specific kind of multi-contact connector, the length, which is 72 inches,
Right.
the pin configuration, which is 200 pin male LFH,
Okay.
LFH, is a specific kind of high-density connector.
Okay.
And even the type of hardware used for securing it, which are M3 jack screws.
Wow.
And importantly,
Yeah.
it also mentions that the detailed wire list, those pinout files we were just talking about,
Right.
are available in the drawing.
Okay.
So you have all that information.
So that level of granularity is really what you need to make sure that everything's compatible,
Yeah.
that it's all going to work properly
For sure.
in these complex systems.
Yeah.
Now, they also highlight a specific piece of hardware. The G12X tabletop receiver from Virginia Panel Corporation.
Right.
What's the big deal about that?
So the G12X tabletop receiver,
Okay.
it's designed to be versatile.
Okay.
So you can use it for a tabletop
Okay.
with rubber feet, maybe for a temporary setup.
Right.
Or you can permanently mount it.
Okay.
It comes in two different sizes,
Okay.
15 inches and 20 inches,
Okay.
probably to accommodate different sizes of equipment.
Makes sense.
But I think the most useful thing about it
Yeah.
is that it's compatible with both their older G12 series
Okay.
and the newer G12X ITAs.
Okay.
So those are the interface test adapters.
Right, yeah.
Having that backward compatibility
Yeah.
can be really, really valuable.
Right.
when you're maybe transitioning to newer equipment.
Yeah.
Or if you have a mix of older and newer systems.
Makes sense.
So it helps you kind of bridge that gap.
So you're not stuck, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They also provide some concrete examples of VPC ATTA G12 solutions being used with equipment from, some big names.
Right.
Keysight and NI, National Instruments.
Yep.
Why are those examples so important? Why include those?
I think these examples really help to visualize how it all works.
Yeah.
They're listing specific integrations with common test and measurement equipment.
Right.
So, for example, they mention a specific VPC patch cord used with a Keysight PXI switch. PXI being that modular instrumentation platform.
Right.
Or a VPC cable assembly used with an NI PXIe RS232 serial interface.
Okay.
So by showing these direct pairings, it makes the benefits much more tangible.
Right.
Chances are you or someone on your team is using that kind of equipment.
Right.
So you can really see how VPC interconnects could fit into your existing setup
Okay.
and solve some of the real world connection challenges you face.
Right. It's not just theoretical anymore.
Exactly.
Now let's talk dollars and cents.
Sure.
Money.
The financial side of things, yeah.
Yeah, because they give some details about the investment involved.
Right.
So what are we talking about? What are the key costs associated with the VPC ATTA?
All right, so there are a few different things to keep in mind.
Okay.
First, there's the VPC ATTA Interconnect SOS license itself.
Okay.
And that's listed at $3,750 per month,
Okay.
or $45,000 for an annual subscription.
Okay.
And it's important to note that this includes training
Okay.
on how to use the platform.
Right, yeah.
And also ongoing updates.
Right. So you're not just paying for the software.
Good.
You're getting the support and the updates.
You got it.
Okay. So that's for ongoing access.
Yeah.
What about the initial setup?
Right.
Integrating it into your existing infrastructure.
Right. So for those initial software integration services,
Okay.
they have a one-time charge of $12,000.
Okay.
And that covers about 80 hours of work
Okay.
at a rate of $150 an hour.
All right.
So that would likely involve their team coming in,
Right.
helping you integrate VPC ATTA
Right.
with your current systems.
Right, yeah.
And tailoring it to your specific workflows.
Okay.
And then they also have an engineering support rate
Okay.
through Leo Engineering.
Okay.
And that's $65 an hour
Okay.
for any kind of ongoing technical assistance that you might need.
Okay.